Hello, guys. This is the Warcast. Right now, it's just me. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Give me a shout out in the chat if you can. Primarily, we're just streaming to Odyssey right now. I'm going to see if I can get this. Okay, so it is working in the background right now. I'm getting a deflection in the media. So, okay, check the. There we go.
Did a
So now you guys can probably hear it.
of the debate hall, the debate studio. Take a look.
So yeah, the format for tonight is pretty chill. I'm just going to be talking, engaging with Odyssey chat, um, commenting. Right now we're just going to wait for a little bit till this thing starts. So I'm just going to bring this down a little bit so you guys can hear that.
2 minutes to answer questions and 1 minute for responses and rebuttals. At the moderator's discretion, there may be an
Sorry, guys. Again, this is all on the fly. Just kind of a
So how does a candidate know
on
how much time is
the
left to speak?
go sort of thing.
Attached to the cameras in the studio and in the candidate's field of view are the timing lights.
Okay. You guys can't hear it. Anyway, yeah, so, thank you, Hall Gamer, for giving me the confirmation on that. You guys are the final sound engineers, really. Yeah, so nothing really new going on. Had a good show this morning with some very good gentlemen from Ukraine. What to talk about? It was a 2.5 hour interview, another hour and a half of combat footage. So check that out when you can. Be sure to like and spread around. I'm trying to give you a summary of it. We went over a lot of questions. We talked about the foundational beliefs of it. They believe in creating a hetmanate. Essentially an elected monarch. In a sense, they were using the term emperor, but it's more of a Byzantine inheritance, I think, from their past. My understanding would be more of an American context, an elected generalissimo. The reason why I say it is because the Cossacks, the barracks lifestyle, had explained that in the context of the interview. There's some music background there. And that would be like them living on the borderlands of Europe, having to confront Russia and maybe even Turkey in the future. Who knows? But it was a stimulating conversation. Went over a lot of history, some metapolitical stuff too. What is the relation? It's metapolitical, but sort of what is the concept of the political, I guess, if you want to use Carl Schmitt's term there. The relationship of the state to a person or people. We all came to the agreement that the basic political unit is the collective of people, how we would identify that as. And it was just really good, really cordial. A little different from the Azov stuff we usually interview about, but it was also dialogue. We talked about at the very end of it how to build a wider coalition, the struggle for ideas, people, and stuff like that. It was so much content we couldn't even really delve much as I'd like with the 2.5 hours. That sounds really nerdy to me, but that's fine. That's why we do these things. To learn. And I would like to talk to them again eventually. They seem really nice. We've always had excellent interviews from Ukraine. Nothing really bad about it. Any really bad experiences, to be honest. It's been a very positive feedback process. But yeah, so why am I streaming right now? It's because I had the time to do it right now, which is uncommon for me this time of year. I don't know. I just feel like talking to you guys and being able to do some stuff with the stream and experiment a little bit. I don't know. I'm not planning on becoming a professional streamer. Obviously, I can't even change the title on some of these things sometimes. But it's something that I always do enjoy doing. Is just exploring ideas, cataloging history, and when it goes on. Also, with debates, I don't know, just kind of laughing at it. And I think you guys can all agree that listening to two shambling corpses for leadership of our country is going to probably make for good content. Hopefully, sometimes debates are absolute flops. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. If nothing else, just chill and drink a little bit with you guys and chat. So, if you guys have any questions, please post them in the Odyssey chat. We did post it out to our public chat here. Let me see here. Yeah, we'll get some, just give us a preview in our public chat there about tonight's stream. Sorry, I'm also checking on a few other things, guys. But tell you what, I'm going to take a small break. I'm going to get a little something to loosen up the social atmosphere here a little bit, and I'll be back in just a couple minutes though. But I'll turn on the news for you guys. They'll probably be going over the debate format for tonight, and we'll go from there.
Here. And how do you do that, Kayla? What is it? What do you need to see?
It's okay, I'll be back in about 5 minutes, guys.
For you to feel that the economy is better?
I need to see our prices come down, our middle class going back to work in jobs that they can make a living at, make their rent, make their insurance payments, whatever they need to have, they will be able to make. They're not making it now.
What's not affordable? Tell me some items that are not affordable in your opinion.
Food, gas, clothing, everything that I can think of off the top of my head is too expensive. All the prices have gone up, and it might be price gouging in some instances, and maybe we need to look into that.
And Kayla, why do you think the former president would do better on the economy than President Biden?
Oh, well, first of all, he has a business attitude. He's been in business for many years.
Okay.
He knows how that works. And he also knows how to talk to people.
All right, Kayla, I'm gonna leave it at there because I want to go back inside the spin room. Vivek Ramaswamy, who was a former presidential contender himself this time around and possible contender for a running mate for the former president, is talking to the media.
In an environment of regulatory ambiguity. And I think regulatory ambiguity is ultimately a precondition for government overreach, is that when the government doesn't predefine what its rules is, it gets to define what they are after the fact. And so whatever the rules are, we got to define them clearly. That's my position.
Would you say that you can rely on a digital fiat instead, and that's why they're not doing something about it?
Well, I think that it's not the sole reason, but I think that's a big part of why. I think Janet Yellen and others have expressed support for central bank digital currency, which I am dead set opposed to, and I am grateful and happy that Donald Trump, a number of months ago, after some conversations that we had, as he said on stage, came out with firm opposition to a central bank digital currency in the United States of America. And I think that that's good because I think it embodies who he is and why he entered government in the first place. That's part of what Draining the Swamp is all about, is providing clarity on what the rules are or aren't, staying within the confines of what the Constitution says, not seizing power that the federal government should not have had in the first place. I think that's part of what a CBDC represents. And so is that one reason why President Biden's operating in the realm of ambiguity? Sure. It's not even President Biden, really. It's a question who his handlers are who are controlling him. But I do think that that's one of the reasons why they prefer that regime. But it's one among many. It's antithetical to what the modern Democratic Party is.
One of the attacks against Trump, it's very common, is that he wouldn't uphold my own podcast.
Your podcast, good for you.
That he wouldn't uphold the Constitution. What's your response to people
say that again?
One of the attacks against Trump is commonly he wouldn't uphold the Constitution. What's your response to that?
My response to that is that's a lot of projection from the people who are making the accusations.
Does it
the reality is
call for the termination of the Constitution?
He did not call for the termination of the Constitution.
A massive fraud of this type actually allows the termination.
He did not call. He did not call. Cite for me one time where Donald Trump called for the termination of the Constitution.
I'm reading it to you right now.
He's never called for the termination of the Constitution.
Fraud of this type
but here's what I believe. I'm going to answer this question before I go to the next interview. Well, what I do believe is there's the projection of
Vivek Ramaswamy in the spin room in Atlanta. Our cameras are inside. They're live this evening ahead of tonight's CNN presidential debate, which we will simulcast here on the C-SPAN networks. We're getting your thoughts ahead of the debate on what topics you want addressed by these two candidates. Yvonne in Mountain Home, good evening to you. You're supporting President Biden. Is that right?
Yes,
Both
I
C-SPAN,
am.
of course, they're
Okay,
getting
what topics do
Collins.
you want addressed?
I want
Immigration.
decency back in America. I'm tired of all the lies.
Hmm.
I'm tired of hearing people
Decency.
uplift Donald Trump as though he is a god. He is not. He is not a conservative. He is radical, and he has co-opted Christianity. I am a
So it's an angry Christian.
and I love my country, but I don't feel safe with other Christians right now who believe that Donald Trump is the second coming of Jesus Christ.
She's got to be
I
Unitarian or
also am
something.
an educator, and I'm tired of people dumbing down education. I want President Biden to be able to
She wants a strong male
some of
figure.
the issues that we've seen happen in the last 8 years.
This is always fascinating. I love watching
and
C-SPAN more than all the other
bring education
bullshit
back
commentary
up.
channels.
Stop burning books. Stop banning books, and educate people. Really educate people. And I think that with the decency that Biden brings to the table, that
Decency.
we can come back together
Son
at
put
some
out
point,
anyway.
and the scales
Biden,
will
Jesus
fall
Christ.
off the eyes of people who have been
Slurs.
deceived by Donald Trump.
All right, Yvonne. Colin, Staten Island, New York. Undecided, Colin. Why are you undecided? Colin in Staten Island, you with us? Undecided, Colin.
Hi, yes, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm leaning towards Biden, but it's mostly because I'm cringing away from Trump. He's got too much baggage, just way too much baggage. And I think tonight what I'm looking for is for Biden to show that he does have some vigor. I feel like it's unfair the clips that are snipped for him, but seriously, he's going across over to the G7. He's out there for the June
Like the G7's hard
War
to.
Memorial holiday, and it's just he's showing something that I don't think that the rest of the country really sees often.
So
And
you
tonight's an
want
opportunity.
to see vitality from the president, mental acuity. Is that what you're looking for to seal the deal?
Well, I think he has it. I
Oh,
just don't
man.
think he's showing it, or it's
What-
not being shown.
what a
And I
bottom
think
we have.
It's a big audience for him tonight, and I think it's an opportunity.
He's got no one
Listen,
there.
I'd rather have another choice there. I really would rather have.
It's like in
another
front of no
choice.
crowds.
If it is so binary, where it's one or the other, I think that Trump just doesn't have so many things, including character. I mean, there's so much. It would be a lot
funny.
to get into. But
All right. Well, there will be two candidates on the stage tonight. The candidates must meet
Maybe
requirements
3/4 if you
outlined
put
in
them both
Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution. A natural-born citizen, 35 years of age, and have lived in the United States for 14 years. CNN has additional qualifications. There must be a formal statement of candidacy filed with the FEC and be on enough ballots to have a pathway to 270 electoral votes. They must also have reached at least 15% in 4 separate national polls. That means, as many of you know, Robert Kennedy Jr. will not be on the debate stage tonight. The Kennedy campaign hasn't given many details on how his solo debate will unfold, but he will be having what he's calling his own real debate, streaming on X. This is from CBS's reporting. It will have a live audience. The Kennedy event will take place at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, the same time as the CNN presidential debate. He plans to respond to the questions given to the candidates in his debate. We'll show you a little bit of that after tonight's
if things get too boring.
presidential debate. Several of you have also talked about the economy this evening. It's one of the issues that you want addressed by these two candidates. It was an issue back in 2020 as well. We want to show you what the two candidates had to say back then in 2020 when they squared off in the first presidential debate of that election year.
My economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, It would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be
Sometimes
about
it does. This one's
buying American. By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it before when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
right.
your tax proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
You got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
We had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
booming.
Blew it.
He blew
it. It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery since 1929.
Is it fair to say he blew it when, in fact, when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse me, Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you're a number two.
No.
Chris.
No, you're both number two. Okay.
It would take a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We did not.
Standard fare.
I'm the guy that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
All right, let him.
We brought back. I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the
One
state
second,
of
guys. I do have some engagement from.
He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact,
YouTube.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year.
From the first presidential debate of the 2020
this here
election
quick.
cycle, then Vice President Joe Biden squaring off against then the sitting president, President Trump. You can watch previous debates if you go to our website, cspan.org. We also have previous vice presidential debates.
No, sorry, guys.
We are 30 minutes away from the CNN presidential debate, the first one of this 2024 election
Let me
cycle.
engage the YouTube chat a little bit here. Let me go back to the window here. This is from Evzen Kovar. He or she says, "I see you in my Odyssey notifications. When I click it, I get no content found. It's because I restarted it on Odyssey. So if you F5 it again, maybe you'll see it again. It's Odyssey. It's fairly difficult sometimes to have to work correctly. But yeah, typically I engage chat on Odyssey just because it's easier for me to find. But yeah, I will get back to the stream here and we'll get this chat on the screen there. Okay, let's see. Yes. 1 second, guys. That's good. Here we go.
Citizens should not be rewarded with entitlements that are bestowed and should be limited to current citizens. I also believe that in most cases, we need to address the U.S. agriculture, specifically black farmers who have been awarded money in settlements from the USDA.
Interesting.
Direct racism, but have not.
Okay.
Those.
Not a fellow traveler, but someone's.
Yeah.
All right, Ivy, a little bit difficult to understand you because of an echo there, but I think we heard the gist of it on immigration. Kevin in Fort Wayne, Indiana, undecided.
See, that's what these bitches do. They fuck you up like that. Anyway, no, like she was talking about the USDA bill that was given out to black farmers because it's preferential treatment by race, right? Like they're giving out land grants basically from the USDA to go and do this sort of thing. Just fucking nuts. Okay, and looks like we are down on Odyssey. It's Odyssey. Okay, looks like we're okay. Now it says we're up. I don't know. Odyssey is fucking nuts. I'm just double checking, guys, because I need to make sure. It's there. Okay. Check that. Okay, yeah, looks like we're still running. Okay, anyway. But yeah, no, that's a major concern for a lot of people, though. And long-term demographically, like the rural areas are what a country rebounds with. Moving the black base of this country out to the rural areas would alter the demographics substantially over time. So in a weird way, it's kind of like good for us that they all move to the urban areas. Urban areas are where the fertility rates are the worst, that sort of thing. Yeah, you go upset.
Thinking electric boats. The teleprompter went out and he panicked. There's some legitimate questions there as well.
How have you counseled the president as he prepared for this debate?
How do you counsel someone who has more debate experience than any modern American president? He's been at this more than anybody. In fact, what I wanted to do when I saw him is, can you counsel me on how to relax tonight? Because as someone that's not up there, I probably have more anxiety than he does. He delivers each and every time. He meets these moments. You've seen it. I haven't seen an exception. Look back. He meets these moments. He delivers. Have all the honestly, all the confidence in the world. He'll do that again tonight. The only thing that's interesting is how this mic issue will play out.
Tell us more about that.
Just interesting.
Well, what do you mean by interesting? The mute button's new. How significant is that? We've never had that before.
So it's just interesting, right? All of us are interested in it. What does that mean? I mean, here's a guy who talks over, tries to bully everybody. It's all about intimidation. It's all about, trying to get someone off their script of sorts or of their game.
For people that don't live on the West Coast, I think most people probably understand who he is, though. But he is definitely one of the shiestiest motherfuckers ever. I really remembered him back in that whole 2012, 2008 era, around there. I think it was around Obama. And when San Francisco, of course, pioneered the, what was it? Coming out of the closet shit, right? The gay marriage crap. He flaunted toward the angry Christians in California. It's like, well, what are you going to do about it? Nothing you can do to change it. We'll talk about a true piece of shit that hates the 99% of everyone else in the country. It's definitely one of those
Joe Biden over 100 times, as you heard from the governor, as you've heard throughout leading up to tonight's debate. The microphones will be muted, and so they hope that that's going to cut down on interruptions. An issue discussed back in 2020, likely to come up again this evening, is the issue of abortion. Back in 2020,
I'm just going to check the health stream here. Stream the health of the stream. So just if it wonks out for a minute, just bear with me.
Before the striking.
Yes, since we're streaming, excellent. Moves per second, bit rate's good. Okay, yeah.
In the court. And so that's also
Odyssey should be more stable.
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it in the ballot?
Because
why is it on the ballot? It's not on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the court.
I don't think so.
In the court.
Well, there's nothing happening there.
Donald,
you don't know her view on Roe v. Wade. You don't know her view.
Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
You graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make sure.
Mr. President, can you let him finish, sir?
The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now. Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question because the question is.
Oh man!
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Who's
on your list?
Right. Gentlemen, I think
this is so
unprecedented.
This was 4 years ago. Literally 4 years ago, plus 2 days.
Second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Jeff.
From September of 2020, the two candidates then talking about abortion, an issue that could come up tonight. We're asking all of you, what issue do you want them to talk about? Melinda and Carl's
I haven't heard
dad,
Ukrainian.
You're supporting a third-party candidate, is that right?
Yes, I am.
And who? Which candidate?
I am actually very excited about RFK Jr., regardless if he is included in this debate. I believe.
RFK doesn't matter. Let me engage Jen. World Gamer, it's good to see you guys again. Internship is also an Odyssey. Glad to see we're getting some foot traffic here finally. Yeah, again, guys, this is going to be a chill stream. I'm just going to be drinking, smoking a little bit with you guys. If one of my other co-hosts comes on, it'd be great, but again, they have to come back. Anyway, so let me know in chat what you guys are drinking, and I'll check those out. So I was going to do. Final Gamer says he gives off a big Jewish aura, and the newsroom sounds just like fake engage into me, but I could be wrong about that. This year, meaning C-SPAN. C-SPAN for me has always been a bit more transparent, a bit more bipartisan, a bit more town hall meeting-esque. I know it's a public utility, basically, right? Or either they say so it's not PBS, but it's more transparent, as I said, and that has its own virtues to it. So it's not Fox, we're just going to go on about Israel, or MSNBC, we're just going to talk about sexual identity too much. So that's best.
That are suing Pfizer. I've seen a lot of businesses go under, people losing their houses during COVID, and I was very Democratic, pro-Biden at that time. I was like really believing in, oh, this is what's saving us, and I feel very duped. And then watching the primary.
Let me turn it up, Adrian. I did
Florida
turn it down a little
Biden's the only one in a primary. Why would I want to support the Democratic
Why would I
Party,
support democracy?
who has had my total loyalty? I've worked for them, and I'm extremely disappointed.
There we go. The deflection should be good for you.
I like the ideas.
Again,
Thank you for giving me
you guys need anything from me, please let me know.
Absolutely, Melinda. Adrian,
Here to help
Lakeland,
out and,
Florida, supporting
support the
President
community.
Biden. Hi, Adrian. What issues do you want the two to debate tonight?
Well, first of all, let me say I've been watching President or ex-President Trump since the 1980s.
Of course,
and all he has ever done was rip off people,
This is a belligerent MAGA heed.
and lie. His slogan for him should be, "The truth is I always lie." That's all he does. For this country to go and support an insurrectionist and the people in Congress who support him, the 118th Congress has got nothing done. Nothing. Because of these inadequate people that have been elected to serve him over our Constitution. When everybody takes an oath, this is including the Supreme Court, whoever takes the oath, they're not merely words on a page. They mean something.
Ultimately, they are.
All right. Adrian's thoughts there in Florida. Several of you have already mentioned the issue of immigration, likely to come up again tonight, border security, etc. Immigration and border security brought up in 2020 during the two debates as well. This is what the two candidates were saying on it at the second and final debate of 2020 in Nashville.
Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you reunite these kids with their families,
Let me just tell you,
Mr. President?
they built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages, and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them, and then it was determined they were built In 2014, that was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids?
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it very.
Okay,
We're,
so that's why we're
trying
having
very
problems.
hard. But
Sorry,
a lot of these
guys.
kids come out without the
I
parents.
just
They come
noticed
over through
the update on Warcast. It took Odyssey a long time to get the
Came with parents.
We're back.
They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. Bay, real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation. Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 of sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say
it.
this.
Criminals that came over here.
Reporters, everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
Anyway,
Such good.
Donald Gamer says you got to give it to him for ignoring the stupid question, playing it's not an American's problem.
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because it made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers,
I think most of us
those
have been
DACA
11.
kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy, and they want to do that, is they've gone to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River, and it's illegal. And you say, oh, no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis.
Believe that.
We owe them.
Non-citizens being your fucking first responders.
To do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things.
Would you want an illegal resuscitating you, or putting your life in their hands?
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say
what
they come
fascinates
back.
me about
Less
Trump's
than 1%
body
of the
language
people
is
come back.
the
We
way
have to
he holds his
send
hands.
ICE out.
He's trying to
In order
emphasize
to allow
empathy. He
to
puts
find
his
them,
palms
we
together.
would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe.
Joe looks
They
physically
never
confused.
come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay. The two candidates back in 2020 in the second and final debate of that election cycle. We are just less than 15 minutes away from this year's first presidential debate, hosted by CNN, simulcasted here on the C-SPAN network. So you're looking at a live picture of the spin room, where the supporters for the candidates will go and talk to the media following the debate. Here at our studios at C-SPAN, joining us is Peter Luge. He is at the George Washington University School of Media and Public Affairs. He's the chair there to talk about the history of debates. Thank you for being here.
Thanks very much for the invitation.
The very first televised presidential debate was in 1960, as our viewers know, between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon. How did that debate change campaigns?
Well, debating became part of the norm, right? It became part of the television era where campaigns came to us in our living room. They didn't have to go to a hall or a field to watch a debate or see the candidates. They came to our house. And since then, it's been part of the tradition of American politics that every couple of years we're joined in our living room by candidates for president, Senate, the House, mayor, whatever, and they make their best case for themselves.
There was no audience then. There's no audience tonight. How does that impact the outcome of this debate?
I'm not sure it impacts the outcome of the debate. It might impact how the debaters respond, right? I mean, comparing 1960 to 2024 is a bit of a stretch. right? There's no audience, but a lot else has
It's a
changed
very
as well.
academic list.
I think you have to look at the candidates. Donald Trump feeds off a crowd. He likes a big audience. He likes the feedback. President Biden is better in a smaller setting. He's better in one-on-one. That's how he spent his career. I think a lack of a formal audience will probably help President Biden because it's a venue he's used to. And I'm not sure that it's one that will benefit Trump because, again, he likes the energy and he feeds off the energy. That just won't be there. Another
difference will be the microphones are going to be muted when one candidate has the floor. We saw that the former president back in 2020 in the first debate interrupted then Vice President Joe Biden over 100 times. After the first debate, his poll numbers went down. Then the sitting president, his poll numbers went down. How do you think the muted microphones play out tonight?
I think it definitely, again, hopefully brings a bit of control to the debate. It's a little bit less chaotic, a little more of a conversation, hopefully. A lot has been made about the fact that the mics will be turned off when their time is up, although one can imagine if President Trump speaks loudly enough, President Biden's mic will probably pick it up as well. Hopefully, again, it will lead to a more informed conversation that can help voters make up their mind rather than what amounts to a pudding fight on the playground.
The muted microphones is one change for this CNN presidential debate. The Commission on Presidential Debates has been the organization up until now over many decades who has been the ones that have sponsored and organized these debates. How is tonight different without the commission doing the debates?
Some of the rules are different, obviously, otherwise.
Sorry, guys. Chat's always priority over these talking heads. Based Midget in our YouTube channel gives us a salute. Salute you back, buddy. I'm not going to do it at the Warcast channel there. I try to keep my channel there pretty clean as best as possible. Yeah. Good to see you guys. Let's see here. We got some more stuff going on here in Odyssey. I'm riding with Biden. Who's with me? Accelerate, baby. I think that's
another interesting.
If I could write questions in chat in Odyssey, I would certainly do that. But let me know your guys' opinion on Odyssey and YouTube here. Who you vote for and why, right? If you're not, that's entirely valid too, really. But also tell us why you're not voting, right? I think what Sailing Gale is saying, like she wants acceleration. Gale, it just sounds like a female name. I'm sure you're a guy. Anyway, point being though is I'm kind of a single issue voter this year. You guys know, because Trump obviously he's going to be trying to negotiate downward for Ukraine. None of these guys have settled the immigration question. I'll give you a big reason why. Like, for example, we had what was on Full House, right? It was Greg, forgot Greg somebody, right? He was talking about why he's voting for Trump. It came down to immigration, right? The big thing to take away from Trump's first 2 years as president, the term I use, he had all the keys to every house. He had a majority in the Senate, majority in the House. As president, he could have appointed the judges, which he did. He had all the doors open for any legislation he wanted. What did he do? He got prison reform. He got the single-payer mandate kind of taken away from Obamacare, and a handful of other like bullshit legislation. Nothing he campaigned. Absolutely zero he campaigned. And 4 months. It was rebuild fucking border fence, right? $1 million El Paso. With that in mind, even when he had all the power to do what he wanted, he did jack shit. Absolute jack shit. That to me invalidates any argument, especially with the amount of energy he had behind him as a mandate in 2016, 2018. That zero of that's there. There's been when was the last fight you saw a team fighting like Proud Boys? Like 4 years ago? There's zero of that energy, zero of our input. That's not a factor in his decision. So don't expect it to change. So I don't feel that voting for Trump's going to change any of that. And that's my point of view. I understand the burdens Biden puts on America and our demographic. At the same time, it's like I think our empire is surrounded by so many challengers that foreign policy again is going to trump domestic policy, as it usually does in America, and things are going to be the way they. Yeah, let me engage chat a little bit. Clarence Damon says, "I'm not voting. I'm not American, but I don't know. I don't know if I would even if I was. They're all shit. 3 goy boys and 1 con." Salem Gale says Biden got messed up by his doctor so he could stay awake long enough to hit Hunter's crack pipe. I can't talk right now. Sorry. This is going to be lit Jack for sure. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, we got another 6 minutes before the debate starts, I guess. So if you guys are drinking tonight, smoking tonight, whatever, put in chat also. Tonight I am drinking a full-girl scotch, and let me know if you guys are also partaking. So I'd like to share with you guys and kind of make it a bit cozy tonight. Yeah, we'll get back to it.
Back. He shuffles a bit. He looks old because 81's old, but mentally he's there. He's the guy for the job, and Trump is obviously going to try to undermine that. Both campaigns are going to use tonight, pull clips from tonight, pull videos of the worst moment of their opponent possible, and say, see, this is what my opponent's about. And there's going to be a moment where Joe Biden looks old.
So it's not about policy. It sounds a lot like about personality. And are those two issues so intertwined?
The American people, by and large, don't vote on policy. We like to think we do. But none of us carries around a spreadsheet in our head balancing 3 points for abortion and 2 for guns, or do the math and divide by 4 or something like that. Most of us are Democrats or Republicans, and even independents tend to be really reliable.
That's a little bullshit because we want a clear, concise answer, and we never get it from these fuckers, right? We want pay. Are you going to cut down on abortion? Is it going to be down to the 3 exemptions? Okay, yes, no. Are we going to cut down on immigration? Much as we can. Yes, no.
Numbers will then fade.
They never give
again,
those
it's not
answers.
on a policy, right?
That's why it comes down to person.
President's rule on what Americans wanted as public policy, we'd have a we'd have a wall along the southern border, and we'd have a lot of gun control. We have neither. What we want is somebody who can represent and stand up for our values. This is me. Here's who I want to project myself, my country to be in the White House. And again, both guys, I think, are going to want to tonight demonstrate they're sharp. They're on top of the facts. They're rational. They're reasonable. They get the task done, while simultaneously trying to goad the opponent into being the worst caricature of themselves.
Peter Loge is the chair of the...
100% Colin Gamer. He says, how can this guy say Biden is mentally there if the court ruled he couldn't undergo trial over the documents at his house due to being mentally unfit?
Peter Loge was talking about their policy, their records will come up tonight, and voters will have a...
I find it funny at the same time as the interview from this morning. Zelensky came up in conversation, right? He's an actor. They had obvious criticisms of him. Christ, man, would it be considered a trade up or trade down if we traded Zelensky for Biden? Just as a hypothetical, I know he's, but a mentally fit president that has 2 Orthodox children, would it be better between either of these two? I mean, Christ, we give other countries so much shit, but this is what we got.
An administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years, and that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling, and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, We inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused a recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head-to-head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
Bounty? I'm not familiar with
Look back at the 2020 presidential debate, the first one that took place in
comes down to foreign
Cleveland. Now
policy.
we are just about 2 minutes away from tonight's 2024
strapped
presidential debate. We'll try to get in David, who's in California, voting for a third-party candidate. There will only be 2 candidates on the stage tonight.
I'll get his chat a little bit more here. Salem Gale says, so a little before debate time gets a shot in the ass. They want to strengthen him up so he comes out. He'll come out. Okay. I say he'll come out all jacked up. Trump also said, well,
their insurance, their clothes, and everything else to live, except through a socialist system that the good government's probably starting up going for. This isn't right. The border needs to be closed. These people need to be deported because America first.
All right, so immigration is your issue, David, that you want to hear from these candidates. Who are you supporting in November?
Trump.
Donald Trump.
All right, why?
Yeah.
Because I feel that he loves America. He wants America to be number one, and he's for the American people. He's not for the globalists. He's not for the corporations. Yeah. He's not out there letting people get
credit
money
where credit's due, guys. Like, Trump's outreach to the black community has been successful. I mean, but listen
to other countries' stuff.
All right, David. That was David supporting the former president. We're going to hear from you, all of you, again after tonight's
basic bitch talking points. Very little thought. Just kind of the mumbling 70 IQ like takes. You know, like he's just very first and support these guys. You know, generally, like as much as we gripe about legitimate, you know, white replacement in our own country, blacks, like they get the short stick holes. It's 2 short sticks for both of us, right? But yeah, he understands that low IQ as he is. But yeah, anyway.
We're live from Georgia, the battleground state in the race for the White House.
Satan Gale says, I hope Trump concern trolls him. This is the ticket. This is the ticket. Sorry. How you feeling, buddy? You okay? You probably will. You probably will. The problem is that the mics will be muted. We'll see if the stage management is so poor that we actually hear some ambient noise into Biden's mic. That he'll have to probably yell into it, though. It's mic.
CNN International,
Let's see how it goes.
CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first election where we've had 2 presidents, former president and a president.
CNN's the lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-monitor.
No, I'm wrong about that. Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt.
Between the 2 candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Oh, man.
Folks, how are you?
Low energy. Low energy.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And
Not
please
good.
welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
They both have that upside down crown entering. That's not good. That's bad for both.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left.
Dude.
We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled.
Trump
Many
smile
people
all
were
day long.
dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach in your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come from a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400.
That was shit
more
when
than
that
$200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Kitchen table policy.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We
Stock-wise,
have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries
Sorry,
were
guy,
copying
I'll
us. We
get
got
you.
hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country.
Motherfucker, that was under your watch.
we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world.
Bullshit rebuttals. Anyway, let me engage you here.
The greatest economy in the world.
Yeah, Conor Gately is referring to the black collar. Don't forget the lower IQ people tend to agree with higher IQ people speech. It's Midwest who let themselves be gaslit on most issues. So it's literally the IQ meme. You know, the good takes are on the left and right end. It's the middle curve takes out that. Thermal Gamer also says, ironically, Trump will probably win this debate because of changes. Their mics being silent will lower. Oh, sorry. When the other is speaking, means Biden will just ramble on without any stop. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Depends on form. There's more form to focus on individually. That might be good for Biden, but he's looking like dog shit. like
President
wrinkled,
Trump, I want to follow up if I
angry, wheezing dog shit. It's pretty bad.
do whatever you want with the minute that we give you.
I'm just here for Joe word salads and salads. I'm kind of a disappointment Biden didn't shake hands with the ghosts this time. Look at that.
It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that.
The link to the chat in our window is broken right now, so I'm not able to show it in our stream. So, if you guys have any comments on YouTube, please engage.
Going like never before. Also, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a four-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election. The Supreme
chat's
Court
more important than
overturned
these guys. Hippocratic Oath says Biden's voice is already going the drugs on YouTube. A lot of numbers there. It also needs to be said that this was the guy saying he would arrest Hillary, right? Didn't fucking do it. Now he's blaming Biden for all this bullshit.
Whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was, an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe.
It was a privacy issue back then, dude. It's become something else. Anyway, so corpse.
We're a state.
Yeah, so no, what they're talking about actually is Salem Gale was making a comment about acceleration. You want to accelerate the situation in this country, let the states decide abortion. Because that will certainly set up a long-term demographic impact. Don't have to go into all the details because it's pretty obvious. You know, you allow blue states, the 12 or 13 that are legitimately blue, to have abortion. You allow the other 37, 38 states, however you want to count it, have kids. Yeah, that's going to have impacts within 20 years at least.
Brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. Consider the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states.
Kind of hammering at abortions.
I'll let you do that.
Lucas Rex actually makes a good point. Says, would you block abortion medication? How does the president have it? That's actually a fairly good point. This is kind of just a shit test, really, right? It's like, do they feel safer with figuring out the country supporting its right to terminating babies, right? Ginsburg, of all people, did criticize Roe versus Wade. Justice, which is interesting, right?
Situation.
Carl Gamer says, I guess you could pass laws to that effect, though it sounds retarded for the president to use so given the other problems.
The founders wanted politicians to be the ones making decisions.
I just had a thought, too.
Ridiculous.
Because Planned Parenthood is a non-profit, I don't know how much the president actually has influence with that.
And if I'm
I imagine if there's federal funds, he could, at his own discretion, probably pull some of that. But
take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Well,
Roe v. Wade, you have
that Democrat
abortion.
governor did say
you can do
that.
whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you
that's
want.
why Trump's sticking,
we don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing.
See,
we think the
this
Democrats
is Trump,
are the
though.
radicals, not the Republicans.
He's not, yeah. Trump's getting a point on him on this.
Constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years.
Trump's staying on the truth on this, though. He's just trying to discredit him with lies.
Very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Comment on YouTube says, from Democrat Ope again, says, this is a fist fight in a leper colony.
On your watch.
Genius observation, really is.
And overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban.
There was a statistic that CNN was floating. DHS said that there was 40% less crossings. I didn't hear what data point they're measuring that high down to a low.
I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was
literally COVID that shut down the babies.
He decided to open up our border, open up our country to
literally COVID that shut down the border.
from prisons.
Zukowski says, my
People that
baby,
are
my
from
baby
mental
used tapes.
institutions,
Yes.
insane asylums.
Yeah, it was a whole bullshit
terrorists.
story,
We have the
too.
largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president.
Who is it that?
Random. Just speak to him.
The union.
But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist
really well moderated debate.
who across the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed three American soldiers, killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not
Alex,
true.
if you
There's
have
no
that photo
data
she posted,
support what he
I'd be
said.
interested to
Once
see.
again, he's
AOC's
exaggerating, he's
lot of
lying.
Soviet photo shoots.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state.
I agree,
in the
Adrian. I
union,
don't know what the
because we
fuck
don't have
he's
borders
saying.
anymore.
Biden
Every
is
state is now a border. And because of
shambling
his
corpse.
ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is
Whatever happened to this
horrible what's
Angels
taken place.
program?
What's
You remember
taken
that, guys?
place in our country,
2016,
we're
2017?
literally
It is like
an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He
really
opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like.
You know, the
And we have
victims
to
of
get a
like
lot of these
illegal
people out, or we have to get them out fast.
immigrant crime went nowhere. That should have been like doubled down on. Didn't bring that
Living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now
We're
it's
talking
down
about
to less
choices.
than
There was
half,
a
because he's done all these
VA
great
Star
things that we did.
program.
And I think
Allows
he did it
you
just because
basically
I
to pick
approved it,
up
which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our
I don't
border
know.
by
Thank you,
allowing
President
all
Trump.
of these people to come in.
President
And it's a
Biden?
very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed his group opposed that.
Right. Yeah.
We're also in a
Thank you,
situation
Alex.
where
I appreciate-
we have
yeah,
great
yeah,
respect
yeah.
for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living next to one of those burn pits, came back with
Sorry, I
stage 4
totally forgot.
glioblastoma. I was recently in France. For
I would
a
show
D-Day,
on stream.
and I spoke all about those heroes that died.
Let me just
I went to
bring
the
it up real
World War
quick.
II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to.
Work in the
He was
background
standing
here.
with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker.
Yeah, he is,
You're
dude.
the loser.
President Trump?
That is dick pics on.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was
Sorry,
in a
guys. I'm gonna-
third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines.
We'll have the audio
he made
going,
that
but I'll
up.
bring up
He put
the,
it in
Telegram
commercials.
media
We
for the
notified him.
photos
had
we were talking
19
about with
people that said it
AOC's
and said,
photo
and think of
op.
this. Who would say I'm at a
Anyway.
cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans?
So, yeah, that
'Cause
was the
nobody's
photos
taken
they
better
were
care. I'm
fine.
so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Four-star general standing on your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's
You should
number one.
apologize to me.
And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything
This
along the
is
line.
this is Trump's
We've done more for veterans than any president has in
brilliant
America.
debate tactics. He gets
American
personal.
and
Gets
they
under your
now are their
skin.
family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home
It's
and their
a
families
Conor
and
McGregor
equip them when they
tactic.
go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
Very dirty, but it's
All
very
right, thank you so much.
The topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them.
Everyone likes
and
me.
that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration.
He's not going to answer the question.
This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
We give Trump credit. He's some tough
I've never heard
shit
so
on
much
him.
malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift.
I know.
Number
Malarkey.
three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
He knows a number.
President Trump,
I never
He's cognizant
for
not
1 minute,
to say
I just
it.
want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to
Yeah,
you?
answer the
Keeping the
question.
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine.
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending.
Nothing.
It should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky.
I mean, like,
as president-elect.
You got countries right next to Ukraine spending a whole percent of their GDP. We're spending barely a tenth at most. Anyway,
I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, and by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000.
I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit. This is just
among those held and thought to still be alive are 5.
God, Ukraine deserves so much better than
Israel's response has killed thousands
Biden.
of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Let me go up again. You guys have been really busy. I appreciate the engagement. I apologize for coming back to you guys.
But so far, Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing
I'll engage the more
in Gaza.
important ones here.
So what additional
Not even from due to this Rex. Not even left-wing Euro countries have such permissive abortion laws as Democrats. Yeah, I think that's actually true. Biden has an Irish temper. Trump is poking it, knowing the cuffs are off a little bit. Yeah, Trump's excellent at his debate. He's got good form. It's got good form, I would say. Same thing from Salem Gale. Trump is a huge threat on the pitchy subject. So true, direct threat to whites in the way blacks can never could be. So that's the caveat to this. Right? Whereas with African Americans in this country, I have to be so kosher on. They're an underclass for the most part. Import a new overclass into this country, you're setting up not just another ruling caste, but you're setting up a whole new best interest in keeping the status quo.
Ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt.
Sorry guys, I didn't get much performance here.
Stopped. We saved
Alex says, Nog, you said you would sell Ukraine down the river because Monday to 2%. Yeah, exactly. He said he would screw over all NATO just because the what would you call that? Extortion, right? Yeah, he's coming as like a New York mob boss. Like, you ain't paying my 2%. You know, I'm going to shake you down. Sort of
greatly weakened, and they should be.
And Dugas Rex did make a good point that politics have significant amounts of GDP invested in Ukraine's defense. We're barely lifting the pinky. We'll get back to this.
We have been separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between.
Look at the kilos numbers. Like, they track all this
Israel and Hamas. Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian.
They can't finish the job.
But they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. You see what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up,
YouTube over here. So from Edson Kovar, Trump is so in love with us.
And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture.
Anyone that goes to fucking Europe sees how much fucking Europe.
But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this. I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay.
Mexican
question,
food restaurants
would you guard us against
most
Russia?
squares.
At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
Well, if you did that with Hillary, dude, you would have been in a better spot.
My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it, too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility.
A man like him that embraces
President Biden?
The energy of a base of people that hates the government, they're under Satan's thumbs.
He sat there for 3 hours.
But you still have people
3 hours
devoutedly loyal.
being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. There. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
That's the sign bot right there.
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there, with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed.
The city was destroyed.
At all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming.
The Chaz, the riots.
What he said.
The 9 months of laying a federal courthouse siege in Portland. I'm sorry, guys. Fuck this guy. Holy shit.
Committee, which is basically
Law and
two
Order,
horrible
my
Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats. They destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right.
They deleted the server in Libya.
And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at.
Oh.
Right now. And the fact of the matter is...
good on Biden for that. That was good timing.
Is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around.
The point is you have two different parties of people that hate.
He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing.
Two different types of people.
We denounce these guys. We denounce the people we're talking about now. We denounce the people who attacked that Capitol. What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up.
Let me engage Shadow because they're just semantics at this point.
Of 34 felonies.
Let's see here. Yeah, fight back. Yeah, I agree.
Members of the Select Committee on January 6th.
About so Dukas Rex has been engaged. Appreciate engagement. Commitments to NATO went up after 2014 because of what happened in Crimea. Moderately, not what it should have been. Biden did call him a traitor. Thought Gamer is addressing what he just said. I don't mind his tough guy rhetoric, though. In part, he's right. A lot of cunts here in Europe were massively shitting on military spending until Trump came along. So that's a consequence of his 2% racket, essentially. That's interesting. Again, Clownworld Gamer also follows up. Implication that Ukraine costs too much while Israel is demanding equal payments to deal with a nothing burger. And he says, diddly squat about what I dislike. Ukraine costs too much. We talked about that. I did want to address what Duke has to say about Minneapolis, though. But becoming like Detroit, it is. We all know the Lutherans are largely to blame for the refugee pipeline that goes into Minneapolis and a lot of the northern Midwest. There is a whole racket behind that. We all pretty much know it by now. Point being, though, is that I looked at a specific map. I need to find these again. The quadrant of Minneapolis, because it's laid out in a sort of grid system. The northwestern part is where most of these Somalis and other indigenous imported African Americans are rioting. So most of Minneapolis is still suburban middle class. A lot of the action that was happening during BLM riots was in that part of Minneapolis. It's good to see you, Radio Room. They can shut down the channel copyright. Let me, so DM me and let
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign.
Sorry, guys, let me address the network owner here. We're streaming through C-SPAN of all channels. They're piggybacking off CNN. So we're not watching CNN itself, though. From CNN, through C-SPAN's channel. That's kind of public domain. The way it works, I went to the C-SPAN's channel. They're piggybacking off CNN's debate. This is the national event. I would almost consider it to be like a State of the Union address. No commercials, so I think we're safe. But again, we'll just play it safe. We'll delete the stream probably after this.
No, I do know that's real.
Address that.
And so the fact that. Could you ever think you heard any president say
that I'm
going to seek retribution?
C-SPAN's a public resource.
I thought Hitler had some good ideas. What got me involved to run the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany,
will not replace us.
And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him.
She died of smoking too much, bro.
What do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think
one traumatic event in her life, and had a heart attack in the middle of
American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people. This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story.
That's the link we're using.
Wiped out.
C-SPAN is using CNN's debate.
It said
check our private chat for that.
Exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunked. It happened
6 years ago.
All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Well, a lot to take in, guys. there real quick. Yeah, we don't do this for monetization. But yeah, anyway, so it's a lot to take. So I mean, we're looking at Ukraine. Trump successfully, I would say, evaded the question. Tried to say how well he would be as president to have it happen. Yeah, the usual bullshit. I don't know what else to really say about that. There's just a lot of evasion and shaming on his part for a lot of the debate there against Biden. And Biden, he's pretty much pinned, I would say. He hasn't been really that good at rebuttal. But again, that's like the mental facilities of a very old guy. You know, what else do you expect? Let me engage chat here a little bit. We saw rioting dogs burning cities down, called mostly peaceful protests. We saw Antifa attacking a man trying to get away. Yeah. It's never talked about, is it? You know? Which also was a heritage protest. I mean, it was a revolutionary action. I'll stand by that till probably the day I die. But I feel that they did the right thing there. I mean, it's, you know, tearing down statues is tantamount to erasure. This is all settled lore at this point. We don't need to fucking. I'll put this back on, guys. I'm going to engage some of my here.
Change America.
I wasn't my own man anymore. I was my country's.
I don't believe that rolling back regulations on Wall Street will help the small businesswoman expand or the laid-off construction worker keep his home. We have been there. We've tried that, and we're not going back. We are moving forward, America.
Under my administration, our friends will see more loyalty, and Mr. Putin will see a little less flexibility and more backbone.
He wants to make America great again. Well, he could start by actually making things in America again.
We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again.
Here and now, I give you my word. If you entrust me with the presidency, I will draw on the best of us, not the worst.
This towering American spirit has prevailed over every challenge and lifted us to the summit of human endeavor.
Watch C-SPAN's Campaign 2024 live coverage of the Republican National Convention starting July 15th and the Democratic National Convention beginning August 19th. C-SPAN, your unfiltered view of the conventions, powered by cable. And in just a moment, our simulcast of the CNN presidential debate between President Biden and former President Trump will resume. This is happening live from CNN studios in Atlanta.
Welcome back to the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
Let me just double check everything.
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress.
So just making sure you guys.
The fact of the matter is, there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number 2, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number 3, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now. And it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
Sorry, I want to say something about Sheridan Shack. $10,000 tax credit for being black. Time to bust out the shoe shine at the mortgage office.
He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for the health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges, I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before, insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage, I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
You're 100% right about that.
The idea is that 100%. We, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able to, the United States can't get its pollution under control.
Senator Gale, I want to caveat that, though. Would you rather have Kamala Harris as president?
By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, so it's a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing
Randy Rubin says Kamala Harris would get trounced by Trump.
Will see their benefits cut.
No doubt. But the point is that would he get across the finish line to where the VP would just be brought in?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time those messages are 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing will do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance
doesn't
where
feel that way.
400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life.
I could get $15,000. Anyway, yeah. Okay.
I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens there. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing. And it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession, and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for two children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI during the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him.
I know exactly. I don't know the academics don't like you.
He should have fired every military man that was involved with that Afghanistan horror show. The most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump.
The genius of Trump's rhetoric, though, is that he knows his target demographics. He's targeting the black vote, the white dissident vote, I guess you want to call it that. He's seceding the Latino vote to Biden.
Nobody. Number one.
Hence his rhetoric.
Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work, and we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden.
Facilities.
President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay?
Chat, I know you're enlightening.
If I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best.
I want to address all your questions.
Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said...
Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to address you. I do want to say one thing first. We actually talked about family fertility rates and stuff like that on the interview this morning. That was near the middle to the end of the interview. Again, highly recommend that interview for you guys to watch. It's on our channels. I uploaded it to Odyssey. I did have to cut it halfway through the stream for YouTube. So again, go over to our Odyssey channel and please take a look at it. Subscribe there. Listen to their stuff. Yeah, let me gauge chat here while old man Biden rambles a little bit. And I'm just going to go up a little bit because we have had an awesome engagement from the chat. I really love you guys being able to engage each other. Me also. Donald Gamer says, at S14, what I think is that he would allow Russia to take Ukraine, Trump, or at best he would force a shitty peace deal, which would lead to a worse conflict on the line. Yeah, so the latest...
100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction?
Personal relation to that. Not myself. People I know.
We now have the largest deficit.
Anyway, the Trump's peace deal is that he would say he would freeze current lines, contact. He would force both people, force both parties, Russia and Ukraine, to come peace negotiations. And if Russia didn't settle on a peace deal, he would just arm up Ukraine up the ass, basically. It's one of those bullshit, like, rhetoric things he says all the time. Israel does seem really to go after Iran. I don't know about that. A lot of sense. The missile, well, that was actually Iran doing that. I apologize. There wasn't really too much that Israel did to Iran directly. They bombed the embassy in Syria. They haven't done really too much to Iran without asymmetric means. Like they've assassinated their nuclear scientists and stuff like that, but they haven't done anything overtly.
2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had.
A lot of sense also says I'm no geopolitical smarty pants, but it seems like it's going to be Israel, Russia, China, and probably Africa against everyone else. I wouldn't even say China for the most part. I think China's going to be their own thing, and Africa's pretty split down the middle. If even that, I mean, you got Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali that are like in Russia's pocket, but outside of that, it's kind of questionable. Maybe the Social African Republic, some other spots. Anyway. Our network says, I really think Biden might collapse. Trump wins by default. Biden looks like hammered shit. Yeah, he does. He looks terrible.
Because the border's so bad.
Yeah, no, I think this Trump really winning this. I would say at this point he's got like 3 points to 1.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while.
Biden's like felon comment to Trump was a really good like left hook to the chin there. That's all he really had though. Trump said it.
That was part of this deal we put together. This bipartisan deal.
Anyway, we'll get back.
Fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Doesn't require much technology.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump. And again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
1 in 5.
Because this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars.
Like one last question,
I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your 2nd term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the 2nd youngest person
when did that ever happen?
Elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger, and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how
back when I was entering the 1970s.
As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call, that to
Those places
build
make
these
the chips.
Those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world.
Yeah.
We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies, and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, who he sends love letters to, and Putin, et cetera. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He
I'm
took
totally
none. I'd like to see him
mentally
take
fit.
one, just
I'm totally
one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way.
What club gives you like a cognitive
test? Hit the ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match.
Christ,
He
man.
can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape
than I
as
was in my 30s.
Years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds.
God, he can't even speak right.
Well, you said 6'4".
That would have been a good rebuttal. Holy fuck.
Well, anyway, that's what anyway. Just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf with you if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. That he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Holy fuck! We're talking about your golf handicap. That's what American politics is. They'll dive down to.
Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden.
Your driver might be better, but my putt is so much better on the green.
In front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about
next debate,
a relatively
debate
small
number
number of
2,
people that
who
went to
wins
the
on the
Capitol,
golf course.
and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent. Because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
Yeah. You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all. A required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
Okay.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. You're not going to play games with me.
Fuck this guy. That was the height of the Russian capture of Ukrainian territory. It was on his fucking watch, right when he was leaving office.
Should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. I will absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country.
That was a win for
Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more.
Oh, and they ended it right there. Ooh.
Live from Georgia.
Oh, that's gonna sting a little. Okay, interesting. Zing, exactly, dude. It gets exactly. Wow. Okay, C-SPAN, CNN. Sorry, coming on in the swoop there. Anyway, that was. This is more entertaining than I thought it would be. To be honest, it's fuck sitcoms, man. We got real life. Right? Anyway. This is probably more animated than you guys recall from me from fucking Reeves. Anyway, I am the PowerPoint professor for a reason. So, again, love you guys. Thank you all for showing up. Please hit the fire button on Odyssey, the like button on YouTube. Share all the usual blah 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 crap. You know, I hate to shill, but you know, I only do once or twice. Fucking 4-hour streams I ever do. Okay, let's talk to chat a little bit. Cloudworld Gamer says Russia did do their aggressive moves when Obama was in, and then when Biden was in. However, Russia is definitely not winning yet. Sorry. So that was the weird thing about the invasion, right? It was when Trump was out, but Biden was coming in, right? Because Trump was the one that sent javelins and other equipment over to Ukraine prior to the invasion. So he knew it was going to happen, but he didn't stop it. That's kind of the fallacy of what he's speaking of, is that he would have stopped it. It was already going to happen when he was president, basically. And Dugas Rex says Trump also tried to disarm Azov. That was more or less because of the Senate. It was because of the New York senator. Again, I've had a couple of Scottish cigarettes. Again, just chill stream. You know what I'm talking about, the Jewish senator. What's his name? Been there for like 20 years at least. Anyway, he was the one that spearheaded that whole moratorium. Again, that was overturned because of successful lobbying by many offices in the West. Let me see what else we got here. A lot of engagement. Again, appreciate it, guys. This is from Cloudworld Gamer. Most voters, so our network, Dirty D, who's the head of all this, all irrelevant debates are all about who looks better. Biden looks like he's dying. I know I keep saying it, but it's true. It doesn't matter what he's saying. This debate is over. Right? More or less agree with that. Anyway, yeah, so appreciate it again, you guys showing up. Chuck Schumer. Yes, Chuck Schumer. Correcting me there. I do need some help sometimes. I've been streaming for a collective 6 hours today, so God forbid I ever do a 24-hour stream. Yeah. Anyway, so we do have a good amount of people still with us. Appreciate y'all being here. Yeah. Again, if you have any questions, let me know, and we'll get back to it.
As predetermined by a coin toss, we're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credit people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the.
It's so funny how that's the benchmark for everything.
We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history. The largest.
Sorry, I like that. Like,
the reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations.
That's so weird.
Jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts
We're not going
now
to
on
smash
CNN.
Cooper, so that's the debate. That's the debate, guys. All right. Appreciate you all being here. Conclusions. What to take away from it? Quite a lot, to be honest, though. I feel that a lot of them didn't know really where to land on a lot of points there. It comes down to perception and rhetoric. I would say, rhetorically speaking, Trump was on point again. Again, it's a very low bar to punch down to say the least. Again, perception comes down to also like how they present themselves. I think first impressions. This was the first debate of the this cycle of presidential elections. Both came out looking like dog shit. Or hammered shit, if we use the term. Frowning, old, stooped over, pretty much the same suits, but just like the same ties representing both parties, blue and red. But speaking as like dialogue or rhetoric goes, Trump was on point. Biden was a much better counterpuncher, I would say. But he didn't really stick to his points. Like he'd stick Trump with a couple points, like the felon thing, and we'll see. Well, the other thing was like, well, we'll see at the end of this election cycle who's president, right? Absolutely. Those were good rhetorical stabs, but he didn't follow up with a good uppercut, rhetorically speaking. I feel that Biden probably lost this debate. Trump probably did win. Again, this is all perception, so an opinion's worth a penny or two cents, right? Which you can spend on is up to you. I feel that going forward, this will probably be remembered as the golf debate. Like, at least for me, like that was kind of the highlight of this whole thing. Is like who can carry their golf bags? Probably neither. Both of them are in their 70s. One is in their 80s. I feel that they're probably just going to die of old age while they're in office. So let me gauge chat before we close up shop tonight. Clever Gamo says, I think Trump might have set up Afghanistan and Ukraine as failures for Biden to deal with. But in Ukraine's case, it backfired, and it's actually about the only issue where Biden looks better than him. Just take this as a grain of salt, but feel that that's kind of a trusting the plan in 180 mode. To think that events are planned in any capacity, I don't know. Since observing current events with the Ukraine war during my years in college, and my time in the military, I have very little belief in thinking a lot of these things are just benevolently or maliciously planned to not engage or to engage with. I think, apologize, that a lot of events that happen in the world are just unplanned, and so much is just reaction. I don't think a lot of people have a whole lot of idea what's going on in the world. I don't think a lot of people that are in our current system have an idea of how it works. I think people have ideas of how their segment of the current system works in the American empire, but they have very little knowledge or wisdom how it works outside of their view, so to speak. It's kind of an ASMR in a weird way from Hadrian. I kind of agree with that. This is just kind of a political ASMR. Should the U.S. expand voter rights down to millionaires? From Clever Gamer again, it would go harder than the golf match presidential selections. I would have to go up though, right? From us lay people. Baseline lastly says, I missed most of the show, but what I got was good. Thank you, sir. Always appreciate you showing up. Yeah, I think that we'll call it good, guys. I've been online for, gosh, let me think here, 10 to 2, and then from 5 to now. So it's pretty much a full day of streaming without being paid. So I'm not complaining. I do this for fun. But yeah, we had a good amount of people show up with great engagement from our chats. And again, share, like, and subscribe. All I ask is just to help us grow. We're a community, and the more we grow, the more our collective opinion is shared with more people. And that's really it. So next week we'll have a normal show, I think, on the Warcast Monday, usual time. And again, the show was delayed on the Warcast because wartime conditions. I had to push it from Monday to Thursday, and I got up as quickly as I could. So I got up within a couple hours after I did the interview. So, that's really it. I don't see any other engagement from chats, so we'll call it good, guys. Do something good this week. Just put some good in the world. And God bless, and good hunting, all right? And I'll see you next.